Hey there, Wargamers, and welcome back to another Wargames Delivered video. Be sure to visit us at wargamesdelivered.com to get the paints, supplies, and miniatures used in this video, and to refer a friend. We have a program active right now where if you refer a friend, you'll both get a $10 discount. And with that, let's get into the video. In this two-part video, we'll be painting Greatjon Umber from the A Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game out of the Stark vs. Lannister starter set. This is the base model that was originally produced during the Kickstarter. On miniatures like this, where there's a good deal of metallics to paint, I like to start those first. So here we're using gunmetal to create a base coat on all of our metallic areas here. We're really looking to cover the plate pads on his legs, his gloves, his shoulder pads, and his sword here. Gunmetal is a very dark gray toned metallic, so you may need a few thin coats to get solid coverage over the white zenithal highlight that we started with. And the reason we started with the zenithal highlight is because we're going to be switching over to speed paints later on in the video and in the follow-up video. For now, we're going to stick with the metallics for a bit. So that is why we stuck with a zenithal highlight. If you were to do just acrylics, I would recommend basing him gray. Next up, we're going to switch over to the wash line by the Army Painter, switching over to dark tone here. And with this, we're going to cover all of the metallic areas that we covered before, making sure to really get some nice detail in those recesses. Try to avoid getting the wash on anything other than the metallics. If you need to, it's sometimes nice to have a semi-damp brush nearby to wipe away any excess wash on the model. And as always with our washes, you'll want to give it about 30 to 45 minutes to dry before we move on to the next step. And here I'm using Army Painter's wash brush. You can use a smaller brush for this step, and if you want more control, you might have to go back to your palette a little bit more than I am here, but it really just depends on how you like to work with your models. To highlight our metallic areas, we will switch over to plate mail metal and use a very controlled dry brush over all of the spots we painted with gunmetal. Be sure to use the smallest dry brush available to you, and also go very lightly and build up highlights very slowly with this step. I like to start out with the sword because you can work your brush a little bit harder there and really get an eye for what you're going for in this step before committing to smaller, more difficult areas. Next up, we will switch over to the Army Painter acrylic line to clean up any mistakes we made along the way on those previous steps. I'm using a mix of matte white and dungeon gray to try to recreate our base tone for seamless fixes. Certain spots on the model lean more gray than white and vice versa. I like to have a little bit of each color separate than the mix that I make, just in case I need to match the color of the base coat a little bit better. Once that is dry, we can move into our speed paint steps, starting out with pallid bone here, and I'll be using a bit of speed paint medium with each of these steps just to get a bit more flow and consistency out of these paints. And with this color, we are looking to cover the horn on his belt and the fur on his cloak. For any new viewers, we always have giveaways attached to our videos. Check out the top link in the description to participate, and refer a friend on wargamesdelivered.com for 5 extra entries and a $10 discount code on our site. And I have said this in other videos this week, but I am using a kind of smaller brush to get this detail in there, and visiting my palette quite often. If you would like to have a different way of doing this, you could use a larger brush, and that way you don't have to visit your palette as often. You just have to have a little bit more control, which sometimes I don't always have. And next up, we will switch over to Fire Giant Orange to cover the tabard of the mini here. Again, using the speed paint medium for more flow and control over your paint, and really just looking to avoid the metallic areas that we painted earlier, and all of the straps on the mini here as well. We're going to try to leave those as blank as we can. Again, if you need to, we can come back in with matte white and the dungeon gray and kind of find the mix for that and cover those up. The speed paints actually work really well over metallics, and we do showcase that in a couple other videos on the channel. I will leave a link below if anyone is interested in seeing how that works in the description. Next up, we're going to move on to painting a boiled leather look on some of the clothing on the model. Switching to Grim Black and a touch of medium, we're looking to paint the sleeves on his shirt, the scabbard of his sword, and his boots. There are some straps and other details we will want to paint black later on the mini, but we have other speed paints we will use before those details, so we'll just go ahead and stay on the sort of base coating phase with the Grim Black here. This color can stain other speed paints quite easily, so be very careful around the pallid bone we painted earlier, and really any other bright color on the model. Again, using a brush that is easy to work with for yourself, and also using the speed paint medium to have a bit more flow and consistency and time to work with the speed paints are really the keys to having good results here. With those steps finished, that will finish off the first half of this mini. Be sure to check out tomorrow's video to see how we'll complete this mini and get to this result here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy our content here at Wargames Delivered, and check out the top link in the description to take part in the giveaway. Thanks again, guys, and happy wargaming.